Be here. Yeah, it's been a good signing class so far. We're still working, but like all these guys, we got some good players coming in, replacing guys we're going to leave, and filling some spots in these these ever-changing times with the roster and everything that's going on. But we're really excited about all these guys.
And then defensively speaking, you can see that we were trying to add some good youth to our defensive line group and some height and size, which I think we did a great job of there. We've added some linebackers that I think will be very good players moving forward. Last year we did sign a bunch of safeties, so we were not really in that market for this recruiting class. And then we are looking to, like Coach Roderick said, just bolster the roster maybe with a transfer or two. And the way the portal works, you never quite know what's going to be available next week, but we wanted to save a few spots for that just in case the right guys were available that we felt could add to our roster.
Great, thank you, coaches. We'll start with questions for Coach Roderick. Jared Lloyd, if you want to start, and then Mitch.
This is kind of a question that goes to both of you guys because it's about recruiting philosophy. And Jay, you touched on this, and we've talked about it before, but I'm just wondering how your approach to recruiting, both of you guys, has evolved with the increased usage of the portal and trying to find the balance of new guys versus experienced guys. I'm just curious how both of you guys have kind of evolved in that sense as you're looking at bringing guys into your respective units.
Well, defensively speaking, I would still prefer to bring in freshmen that are great fits at BYU and then develop them the right way and then fight like crazy to keep those guys that have made plays for us that we know everything about, try to keep those guys here intact. There's always going to be things that occur, either injuries or guys decide to hit the portal or guys decide to declare for the NFL draft where there's going to be some holes. And that's where the portal can really help you as to go out and maybe find a guy and experience a guy that's played more reps at the college football level that can come in right away and play. But I just really believe strongly that those guys have to be good fits for BYU and good fits for what we're trying to do in our scheme, because not every portal guy that gets taken out there goes right in and plays at the schools that they're going to. There's a lot of mistakes made, and we want to be really careful of taking the right guys.
Mitch Harper?
Yeah, for Coach Roderick. Coach, what were the areas of need that you and your offensive staff focused on in this cycle?
Yeah, we got a little bit of everything. We didn't have any one position where we were going to be extremely deficient this year. So we signed a few offensive linemen, signed a few tight ends, a couple running backs, a receiver, one quarterback athlete guy in Nolan Keeney. So we didn't have a one drastic area. Like Jay said, last year they had to sign a bunch of safeties. This year they didn't. We were kind of just this year just a little bit of everything. A few of these guys will go on missions, a few of them won't. So we feel like our overall roster is in really good balance. We're a young team right now, and we have a lot of good players returning next year. And so there wasn't any real drastic needs anywhere for immediate help.
You said in your opening statement that it's still working. You came into the day with a verbal commit from a player. Are you expecting to get that signing a little bit at some point today or during this early period?
I don't know what you're talking about. I can't comment on anybody that hasn't signed with us. But there are still recruits we're working on, always. We're always recruiting. It never ends.
Thanks, Mitch. Go ahead, Jared.
Aaron, what difference does NIL make in recruiting these days? How big does it play into the discussions with you guys?
Well, NIL, it's not going away. It's a huge part of recruiting now. And the nice thing is we're not really involved in those conversations necessarily about that stuff. We can now turn that over to other people. But it's a big part of recruiting for sure. And it's not going away ever. So we just have to find the right balance there of, NIL is going to be important, rev share is going to be important. But then you also still have to find the right people with the right character, the right fit, both for the university and for the schemes that we run. And so all those things are factors that you have to consider.
Let's go with Jay Drew, and then another question from Mitch.
Aaron, is there an LJ Martin in this group, a guy that can step in and contribute right away on offense?
That's hard to say. That's hard to predict. Even with LJ, we thought LJ could play as a freshman, but you never really know for sure. And every year, I think sometimes there's always a freshman or two that surprise you and that are more ready than you think. And some years there's one you think might be ready that isn't. I think it's just that's part of the development process. You never really know for sure. But we will always be open to freshmen playing for us if they're ready. And I know we had a few guys that have played early in their careers on both offense and defense the last couple of years, and that will continue to be the case. And like Jay said, on offense, I agree with his philosophy. We're on the same page 100% that we want to keep bringing in young players every year and building our program around them. And then the transfer portal is merely a tool to replace an immediate need that you have that maybe was unforeseen. A player leaving for the NFL or a player that transfers or an injury, that type of thing. And we don't want wholesale portal transactions going on every year. It should be just filling in a gap or two each year, and the rest of our team should be developing these young guys that we sign out of high school.
Go ahead, Mitch.
Coach Roderick, with the expected 105-man rosters next year, do you now have certain numbers as far as each position group? For example, what would be the number at quarterback that you guys are kind of forecasting for next season with the 105-man roster? Yeah,
that's a great question, and that is the term uncharted territory gets overused, I think, in this world. But that is truly something that's going to be interesting to see. You have 134 teams that are going to be having to cut their rosters down quite a bit, and there's going to be some massive shifts in player movement and stuff this year that's truly unprecedented. So what's going to happen, I think, at most position groups is you're going to just 105. That's about 20 less players than usual. You're going to see each position group carrying one or two less players than they have in the past. When you spread that out across the whole team, that's about what it's going to equal out to. So for each position group, it won't be a massive shift. When you add it up, though, it's a pretty big change. It's a pretty big hit to your roster. But I would see us carrying 4 quarterbacks instead of 5 or 6. Maybe you carry a 5th at times. It's going to be right now we've been carrying 4 on scholarship and 2 walk-ons. In the future, it's probably going to be more like 3 on scholarship and 1 walk-on, or maybe 4 on scholarship with no walk-ons, something in that range. But and then you also have to leave a little bit of flexibility there too, I think, for just best players available. If you're too rigid with those numbers, you could end up passing on a good player, a good quarterback or a good receiver or somebody, just trying to stick to numbers. I think there's always a little bit of flexibility there for who the best players available are. And the one number you can't mess with too much, though, is O-line. You always have to have enough O-linemen to function, because there have to be 5 of those guys on the field every play. And, by the end of this season, we're playing Waylon at right tackle, he's a guard. He's never played tackle in his life, and he played really well. But the lineman depth is the most important thing to being good on offense.
And just to follow up on that, you mentioned walk-ons. Is the expectation still that 85 scholarship, 20 walk-ons? Is that kind of the operating thought right now at this moment?
I think Kalani's going to probably have to answer that, because I think we're still I think everybody's still working their way through how that's going to work. Is that how you see it the same way?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, questions from Sean Walker?
Yeah, for Coach A-Rod, you kind of touched on him a little bit earlier, but you guys did sign a quarterback in Nolan, and it seemed like you hinted at maybe leaving him open to potentially moving him around a little bit just because of his athleticism and whatnot. Can you just kind of expound on kind of what you see out of him and where you sort of see him fitting in?
Yeah, Nolan's a good quarterback. First of all, I'll just say that he's a good quarterback. He's a good passer. He's a big athletic guy that can run and make plays. And I just mentioned what a good athlete he is, though, because he is the type of guy that he could play a lot of different positions. He could be a quarterback. He could be a tight end. He could be an outside linebacker. And he probably, he can do a lot of different things. He's a very, very good basketball player. Super athlete. We're really excited. He's a great fit for our program. We can't wait to get him here. And he will be leaving on a mission in a few months, but after his basketball season. But he's a very dynamic athlete.
Question from Jared Lloyd.
Kind of touching on what you were saying earlier, Aaron, what's the value of athletes with these roster cuts in the sense that having guys that potentially can move around? BYU's done that in the past, guys going offense, defense, or doing different things, but does this even elevate that a little bit because of that might make versatility more valuable?
Well, yeah, Jay mentioned recruiting length on defense, and we do the same thing on offense. Try to recruit as many long-levered, fast athletes as you can, and then you figure out how to make a football team out of those guys. And sometimes if you get too stuck on what position each guy plays in high school, you can end up passing on some players that could have helped you. And so we're trying to sign, as many, like I said, as many good athletes as we can. Length is super important in this game. And especially, you play against these teams in the Big 12, you have to have length at every position. And so that's important. And then you do your best to get the best 11 players on the field on each side of the ball.
Another big picture question, for both of you. We just barely went through senior day, which is kind of a chance to laud the achievements of the seniors and the guys that have been there for a while. The signing days are a chance to kind of anticipate what those guys can become during their time. How much fun is it to see these guys, get this opportunity, sign and get these opportunities to work with them over the next few years?
Look at that.
Well, that's one of the most exciting things we do as coaches, right, is to sign these young players that we believe in and then develop them into what we hope they become. That's such a rewarding part of coaching. I've seen that with some of the guys that we're going to lose to watch Blake Mangelson become what he became and have such a great year in the Big 12 like he did this year, or Tyler Batty. That's one of the most rewarding things we do as coaches, and this is every year we get this opportunity to be excited about a new crop of those guys, and that's the best part of our job.
Okay, we'll take a question from Sean Walker, and then I believe Mitch Harper has a question for Coach Hill.
Yeah, we can kind of throw this at both of you guys because there are a couple of legacy recruits to BYU that you guys signed. One linebacker, obviously, in Tyler, and then a lineman. I'm not sure where Austin fits on the line, so we'll just say offensive lineman. But how important was it to be able to retain those types of players, especially when I know both of those guys had a lot of interest and a lot of offers from some pretty big name programs, and it wasn't necessarily it was far from a guarantee. I think that they wound up sort of following the family business, if you will.
Yeah, there's been a lot of, I guess, legacy recruits over the years that have been good players here, and that will probably continue to be the case in the future. You don't just recruit guys, though, because their dad played here. You recruit guys because they're good enough to help us win in the Big 12. And there's been a lot of great players here who have kids playing football, and these guys were recruited here because they're very good players. They can help us win, and we're excited. We're excited about them. We had Blake Bryce is a tight end. His dad played here as well. I think that was, I don't know if you mentioned him, but we have a number of guys like that in the program now, and we hope to have more in the future. But it's always based on the merits, though, of what the kid does on the field. It's not just because his dad was a good player here. And so we want to give credit to these kids for doing their part to prove that they belong at this level.
Well, and I think another thing that's big with that is that these fathers that came to BYU and were great players themselves had such an unbelievable experience at BYU that I think a lot of those guys yearn for their kids to go to BYU to have a similar experience. And that's something that's pretty special about this institution, is just what it represents in the lives of so many of those players that did play here and the experiences they had. And hopefully moving forward, we can replicate that on a similar or even better scale with these players that just signed with us.
For Coach Hill, I wanted to follow up on asking you about Tyler Payne. When does he plan to matriculate, and your thoughts on the type of player career he had at Weber?
Well, we expected to get him going soon, and I thought he had a phenomenal year up at Weber. He's a really good athlete. I love his physicality and the way he plays the game. He plays the game at linebacker a lot like his dad did at punter, like just knocking the heck out of people. So I am super excited about him. I think he brings something to our linebacker room that's going to make the whole group better. And he represents another one of those kids that was here close to BYU and in our backyard in the state of Utah that we need to do a great job recruiting and continuing to get here at BYU. Our backyard is a high priority for us.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate the coordinators joining us today, and congratulations on a great signing class. We've got Kalani ready, and we'll move to Coach Sitake.
All right. Thank you. All right, guys.
Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Go ahead and make an opening statement, and then we will begin taking questions. Before we begin, I want to congratulate you on the announcement today from the Polynesian Hall of Fame and your induction that will be coming up in January. Congratulations, well deserved.
Thank you for that. And I'm excited about this recruiting class, the 2025 recruiting class, and obviously we'll have another signing day in February where we'll see how many guys will sign there. Recruiting is always a daily thing for us, and so once we get our guys and feel like we've got our depth and got the numbers right, we'll be able to kind of solidify about when the enrollment will take place. A good number of these guys, I think 8 of them are going on missions first. But we're really excited about the group, excited about their families, and excited where they come from. They're a great fit to our program, not just on the field. I think they do some wonderful things on the field, but it's all off the field and what they're about. Their vision and their goals are in alignment with what we are as a program, and definitely what we are as an institution. So I think these young men have done an amazing job and on the field and represent themselves in the classroom, and they're going to be great ambassadors for our program, and I'm excited to get them on board. And now that recruiting's a little different now than it has been, because a lot of the commitments happen earlier, so you get guys that have been there, and it's just a matter of just signing and making it official. But most of the guys, I think recruiting has kind of been fast forward a little bit, which is fine, and we were able to recruit these guys and most of them have been committed for a long time, and it's just been nice to be able to already have a relationship. I think back in the day we would be on the phone till early in the morning, because just trying to talk to guys and trying to figure out what's the best fit for them and what decisions they're going to make, and then you have all the hat choosing ceremonies, all that stuff. I like the way it is now. I like this less drama. Let's just get the guys announced and let's get them working on becoming a Cougar. But before I answer any questions you guys have, I just want to first express my appreciation and gratitude to everybody that's been involved in recruiting. I don't think our recruiting department gets enough credit, and I don't think they really care for it, but they work really hard, and everything they do with official visits, unofficial visits, all the content they put out there, even people that put our stuff on social media. I think that's everything plays into recruiting. And so when you look at what's done with the university, from the faculty to the staff to everyone that promotes the brand of BYU and that promotes definitely BYU athletics and BYU football specifically, I hope they know how much we appreciate them, because they're the ones that actually make the recruiting process a lot easier. So there's a bunch of people that have spent countless hours and sacrificed a bunch of their time in their life to our recruiting, and I hope they know how much we appreciate and love them. And then definitely want to express my gratitude to our staff, to our coaches that are doing the daily contact, finding these guys. I think the recruiting for us is a filtering process. We want to see if they're going to fit our program in a lot of different ways, and if they have the potential that can accomplish a lot of things as a person and as a football player. So they've done a great job at finding these young men that want to be at BYU for the right reasons, and we look forward to their mentoring and coaching them to achieve a lot of their goals on and off the field. And so, but I want to also thank the fans. They make it easy when these guys come to our games, and they go to other sporting events at BYU, any activities at BYU on campus. It makes a difference, especially their interaction with the fans. So thank you to all Cougar Nation for being such a huge asset for us in recruiting. And last but not least, I want to thank the players for what they do and how they recruit for us, and just the connection that they have to each other. The fact that they live the life that you want to see, and they don't do it for just the cameras. They actually, our recruits get to see it in real life. They get to see with their own eyes that there's a great connection here, and it's something that they really want to be a part of. And so that doesn't work unless you have wonderful young men on the team, and they've done a great job in making this a destination that people want to be a part of, regardless of their religious affiliation and their background. So we're looking forward to our bowl game and our prep, and looking forward to great things in the Big 12. And these young men will be a big part of what we're trying to accomplish as a football program. So thanks, guys. What questions do you have?
Let's start with questions from Jared Lloyd, then Jay Drew, followed by Sean Walker.
Lonnie, first of all, congrats on the Hall of Fame induction, Polynesian Football Hall of Fame. That was awesome to see that news this morning. But talking about signing day, both Jay and A-Rod emphasize that this program is going to focus on bringing in high school athletes first and then filling holes with the transfer portal. That's different than some other institutions in the country. That's a different approach. Is that something that's been kind of intentional for your program, and why have you chosen to go that route?
Well, I think for us, we can kind of the transfer portal is hard because it's such a fast pace of recruiting, and how do you really get to know somebody? And if you look at the majority of people that we bring in, even through the portal, there's already a connection from before. And so one thing that we have to focus on is the culture of the team, protecting the culture. I think a lot of times people would look at talent and say, okay, that's the overriding factor that you want to be ahead of everybody else. But talent doesn't just get you wins. You still need culture. You still need strategy. You need all those things involved. And I think when they're formidable is when they're in high school, and when we can develop a relationship and see what they're about is when we start recruiting these young men, have them in camps, have a connection to them. And I'm not saying that we can't have connection to newbies, like people that just show up and we get to know them in recruiting. And that in the portal, that takes a little bit more, finding out more about a person's character and who they're, and you have to do a lot of reference checking in that one. But with the high school recruiting, you can't really fake it. I think you get the guys that you know and what they can accomplish, and then you can really work them into. They're a great fit. They're adding to the culture. They're not just coming in here and feeding off of it. And that's you can get that done a lot easier and a lot better in high school.
NIL has also changed the game, and A-Rod emphasized that it's not going away. It's something you've had to adapt to. How, in your view, has it positively impacted recruiting? Just the fact that the money stuff is out there and has an impact.
Well, I think, NIL, it all depends how you structure NIL and how you approach it with rev share, things like that. I think for us, the focus isn't on the money. It's on what we're trying to get done as a football program. And so you have to have different ways of working with the money. But I'm not the money guy, so this is not my job. I'm not. That's why we hired a general manager, so he can be the guy that you go to that can kind of organize that. And part of that is for us to show some responsibility in finances, and so educating them, but helping them with budget, understanding taxes, things like that. And the best way to do it is have a general manager and guys on the staff that can help them budget, but also plan for the future. So I know there's a huge amount of money that's coming in through rev share. We're going to encourage our young men to save that for the future, put it off to, think about your future, and don't worry about the instant gratification of cashing out. I know that a lot of people are just doing a cash out and then just saying, hey, this is the money, we'll give you all the money. That's how can we be coaches that actually want to help them in every part of their life, but then not help them in the finances? So we have to have a great structure and a plan in place, and it's taken us a long time to get to where we're at, and I think we're in a good position. But the next step is the general manager and the rev share and educating our players, and they can go get that training from him and from others that are on staff. And so I think people have said that I haven't embraced NIL enough. I'm like, are you kidding? Everybody's going to embrace NIL if they have the money to make it work. My job is I'm embracing the young men, and I want them to have the money work for them and not them work for the money. It's the culture that we're trying to protect. And those of you that know anything about it, it's like money can change relationships really quickly, and you see how it's done it even in college football today. So we're not going to let that be a distraction to us, but we will definitely have a plan to help these young men, but really think about the future.
Go ahead, Jay.
Lonnie, I know you said something like 16 of the guys committed before the season started, but I'm just wondering what effect on recruiting has your success this season had, and will it maybe be manifest more next season or next recruiting class?
I think maybe. Yeah, I think next class it definitely does it. But even last year when we didn't have, it's not a conditional thing. Recruiting is not just, you strike while the iron's hot, and now you've won games, and so now you get to get the better recruiting classes. We still need the right guys, the right fit. That's our goal. Get the right fit to this school. And they want to be about what they want is aligned exactly with what the school is all about, and that's what we do in recruiting. I feel like the relationships that we have with them and the success that we have on the field that may get some attention and might get some eyes turned our way, but it's not the factor that we're relying on to be the huge carrot that's dangling in front of all these recruits. The key is I want them to see being a part of this team. I want recruits to watch our team and say I want to be on that sideline. I want to be in that jersey, and I want to play for those fans. And that's what we're trying to focus on.
Okay, Sean Walker, then Mitch Harper.
This is a little bit of a big picture question, Coach, but A-Rod, I kind of referred it to you a little bit earlier as well, so I'll sort of launch the grenade, I guess. But how much of did you guys sort of keep an eye on, or maybe just even keep in the back of your mind a little bit, that new 105-man roster? I guess it's a cut down right now, when you were looking at this recruiting class, and not just recruiting now. It's a little different to recruit to a 120-man roster, and if a guy can make that versus 20 or so fewer spots or whatnot. Was that kind of in the back of your mind with some of these guys? I know obviously it's a fairly recent thing too.
Well, I think the recruiting classes are going to have to change because of that. So you can't really just sign a bunch of guys, and for us too, it's the roster. The roster is limited, but recruiting for scholarships is still the 85. If a school chooses to add all 105 on scholarship, they can, but when you go from 123 for us to 105, you take 18 guys away. It's hard to think about that when you're planning. And this is every school has to drop their roster to 105. So the portal is going to be a very busy place in the next few weeks, and then also again later on in April. And the portal's been there's a lot of people that's kind of been left in the portal that didn't have a place to go, and I imagine that there's going to be a huge amount of enormous amount of young men, that just the numbers that they're going to have to find a home, and that's a struggle. I think you've heard a lot of coaches talk about it, that it changes everything. But from my perspective, it changes everything, even in planning for spring ball, planning for fall camp, and planning through the season, because you can't replace. I mean, the numbers just they dwindle, and so now your scout team is going to be down a little bit, and so I think it's going to change the game, definitely. We just have to be on top of it and make a plan that's going to help us find some kind of a competitive advantage, and that's what the goal is. But right now, we don't have to have that roster down until fall of 2025, but you're going to eventually have to get there. So you're going to start making some decisions as you start getting closer to that time, and it sucks, man, because we've needed a lot of those. I think of guys that are in that you would be missed out in that spot on this team, guys like Tanner Wall and Crew Wakely, and guys like Tyler Algier, and some amazing players that have been in those 106 to 123 spots. So that's going to be difficult to replace, and that's in every team has to deal with that.
Go ahead, Mitch.
Kalani, I wanted to ask you about the general manager role. How long has that been kind of in the works that you wanted to have that position on your staff, and what were some of the what you wanted out of the person that you ultimately ended up hiring in that spot? Yeah,
I wanted it since the finances became a deal, like NIL and all that stuff, and so I'm glad that we have it in place. We just didn't know all the details of it because it was going to be fluctuating quite a bit, and now that the NCAA has kind of decided on rev share and kind of where NIL is going to be in 2025, we have to be ahead of it, and we have to be planning according to whatever is going to be out there. And Dave's done a great job he's been in touch with everything, but he's also has that experience with his background in law, that he's dealt with a lot of things and has interacted with the NCAA. He can kind of predict and see what's going to happen in the near future, and also plan for the future, which is what we want him to be with our players. And I'm not great at that stuff, so what I can do is I can have a lot of people around me that know it, and Dave's one of them. He's going to be able to be in a position to help these young men talk about money and discuss the different options, but also look at the plan that we can have for them. And he's put together a very enticing schedule and plan for our players, and he's meeting with them and talking with them already, and it's stuff that I don't have to worry about. So it makes things a lot easier for me. I can just worry about coaching the team and going through what we're doing here. But we're aligned in how we see things with the same vision, that although there is going to be money, the focus will not be money driven. It's going to be on opportunities that are here, and the experience of being a football player in this program. And then, like I said, really understanding how money can really help you in the future. That's where I think Dave's going to be the biggest help for us.
Next, we'll take questions from Kevin and then Jared.
Now that you've had this class signed, is there any position that you think is kind of a position of need still, whether that's kind of adding on to this class or the transfer portal in the coming weeks? Does any place stand out to you on this roster that needs some help?
I think a lot of different coaches have different strategies for how they're going to build their roster for 2025. I like what we're about. I'm not going to make statements and say we're never going to go do this and we're all. It's like, even though we have a good number of high school recruits that we have here, we have to be open to all of it. I have to be open to any players that can feed to our needs with depth and also talent. I mean, we're always open to bring good players in here, but they have to be a great fit. They have to be a great fit for our culture, for our school, and their vision has to be aligned with ours. And so, if they want to be part of this team, it's not just only football. They obviously have to play some high level of football, but I want to see if they can bring a lot to the table with their personality, their character, and the relationships that they're going to have with their teammates. So we if you look at it, a lot of people didn't really expect much from our team because we had a lot of the same guys coming back, and we added a few pieces, and so, but it just goes to show that if you have a system, you have a culture, you build on it, it'll all work out, and you build it around a connection that these guys can have around together with each other. That the concept of love does work, and the concept that we implement the gospel in our culture and in our football program, it does work. But it doesn't. You don't do it by. It's not just it's all happy-go-lucky stuff. You know what I mean? Like, we hold each other accountable. We really focus on our guys doing things the right way. Is it perfect? No, but there's definitely a high level of accountability and responsibility for what they represent. And sometimes you put these huge expectations on them, but they have to meet your standard. And that's what we're trying to get done with this program, and it's working nicely right now.
Go ahead, Jared.
Lonnie, we just had Senior Day, which was a chance to recognize, the accomplishments of that group of individuals at the end of their careers. And here we are just a few days later, lauding these young men who are making that transition from one point in their careers to now being part of the BYU program. How fun is it every year when you get this opportunity with the potential of these guys and the hope of seeing them through the next, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it is, as they make this transition?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and then you see them like when they come in as a high school, coming right out of high school, graduating, or guys that have gone on missions and they show up right after their missions, and they're still kind of, they definitely don't have a tan, and they definitely don't have, they're just not even developed yet, and then to see them get older, get bigger, stronger, develop their identity, that they're already on a path to getting there. That it's like I'm just really proud that I get to be a part of their progress from a young man to an adult, and that they became the men that their mom and dad wanted them to become. And then along the way, they've been able to pick up some amazing relationships, and some of them got married, some of them have babies of their own, and so you see this transition. And then, if I'm being honest, I can't believe that I get to be a part of it. And so I love where I'm at. I love being connected to them and seeing them go through different phases in their life. And it's interesting because I just, we've had some players that had children for the first time, and Hinckley Ropati is one of them. And I just keep thinking like, man, it's come a long way, and he's had some adversity in his life with injuries and loss of loved ones, and now he's I see him as a father, and that's one of the proud things that I get to see. It's like I get to see him make touchdowns and things like that, but I get to see him holding his baby girl, and that means a lot to me. And and it's one of those things I'm like, just wait till you have this baby. You can't wait. I mean, it's going to be, there's nothing like it, and because I remember when that happened to me, and so I get to see this from the best seat in the house, and then I get to stand on the sideline and see them make plays or make mistakes, and I get to be there with them through it all. So it's a fun ride. I love it.
We have time for one final question from Mitch Harper.
Kalani, you noted that you're expecting 8 guys to go on missions first. Out of the 10 remaining guys, how many are going to enroll in January at mid-year and compete in spring ball?
There's quite a number. Do you have that number, Brett? That's right. Oh yeah. So we're thinking 4, 6. So we're thinking 6 will probably be mid-year enrollees, but we're still working through that with some of them are trying to get their schoolwork done, and then trying to get admitted, and then there's like a block of time that they can get it done, and then if they can't get it done, then they would have to enroll in spring, and so that's kind of that's the difficulty, is getting them here. But I think we can. I think we're planning on 6, maybe a couple more. We'll see, but 6 for sure. And then with the transfer portal, we it's always with the admissions, things that we have to work with. So I'm really thankful that BYU admissions and BYU administration has really been helpful with us in the timing of all of that. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen to the portal. I just know that we love our team currently where it's at, but we have to take a look at. We have a responsibility to take a look at who those that can fit BYU and then fit our culture, and I think we'll see what that looks like. But it's going to be kind of wild right now with the portal, with the roster going down to 105, and with every school having to do that, and when they do that is going to be interesting.
Okay, thanks everyone for joining us today. Coach, really appreciate your time and congratulations on your signing class.
Appreciate it, guys. Go Cougs.